Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. I've even got a thing to say Graham Hughes. It comes up there. It's great, doesn't it? Hello, everyone. It is Monday, the 9th of September, 2024. Hope you can see me. Hope you can hear me. Hello to everyone in the chat. If you'd like to join the chat, it's a very simple process. All you need to do is subscribe to the channel. Just click on subscribe and then wait for 30 seconds. Or maybe a minute. I didn't check the settings this morning. Right, I just got to say hello to everyone in the chat. Not individually, maybe, but I'll say hello to Plum Duff. Hello, always nice to see Plum Duff in there. We've got Billy Kershaw. We've also got Ian McKenna. We've got Vegan Elite. We've got G Whistler as well. We've got Lucy Willis, Unquiet Badger. It's good to have a badger in the chat. Penny's in there as well, and Lofty the Softy. Hello to you all. So, this morning we're going to be talking about the winter fuel allowance, which is a couple £100 that was given to all pensioners who need, whether they needed it or not. And this is a story of a few different things, and you've already been talking about it a bit in the chat before we started. So I'm gonna touch on a few things that you've already mentioned, but the main thing is this, right? You have got a situation where we have got problems with our finances in this country, to put it mildly. So you need to cut back on certain expenses. And one of those expenses that's a really easy target for Labour, in particular, is this winter fuel allowance. Why? Well, for a few reasons. First of all, it goes to people that don't need it. There are 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires. So they're giving money, free money from the taxpayer to millionaires who definitely do not need that money. So to a certain extent, I think we should all agree that it should be means tested. Like, those who need it, get it. Those who don't need it, don't get it. And that's fair, but that's not necessarily the way that it is described by Labour. And so let's look at two things here. We can look at how Labour are going to weather this storm, right? So let's just say first up, it's the beginning of their term. They've got another 4 years or 5 years in power. Everyone's going to have forgotten about this in 5 years' time. A week is a long time in politics. 5 years is a lot longer. Also, there's the fact that he's not really going to lose any votes, which pensioners, generally speaking, don't vote for Labour. In fact, in the last election, over 70s, 80% of them voted for a party that wasn't Labour. So you're talking about 1 in 5 of pensioners actually voted for this party that is in power. So I know that governments are supposed to represent all the people, but in terms of being punished politically, I don't think there's much that pensioners can do. Again, they can't go on strike. So, okay, that's not going to work. Unite the unions getting on board, saying, oh, this is disgraceful. This is a disgrace. Which is a bit weird, because you'll think they would be more busy representing people who work rather than people who don't work anymore, but there you go. That's Unite the Union for you, the one that supported Brexit. So essentially it's a Tory union. It's a union for Tories, I guess, because they'll just support all the things that the Tories do. And then when Labour do anything, they're like, no, don't do that. If you're big in Unite, I'm guessing you're not going to vote Labour anyway. So as a vote winner-loser, I think it's going to be chaotic neutral. I don't think there's going to be anything majorly that Labour are going to have to take on. I think there's going to be strikes. I don't think there's going to be any big polling differences compared with what was before. But here's the second thing I want to talk about: communication. Someone pointed out this in the chat before, like they just need to get better at communicating. John C., thank you very much for the £10 super chat. That's really kind of you. That is really nice. Thank you, John. Says, good morning, Graham and all. Sweet, man. That's cheered me up on what would otherwise be a rather dreary morning. It's quite dreary outside at the moment. Anyway, so yeah, Labour communication. Have we talked about this before? I think we have. They're shit at it. Did you watch the interview with between Laura Kunzberg, who looked like a bulldog chewing a wasp for the whole thing? God, she hates Starmer. Oh my God, you could just see it in her face. It wasn't like the face of when she was talking to Boris Johnson. I'll tell you that for nothing. Anyway, so Laura Kunzberg, privately educated, of course, gets to interview the Prime Minister, who's also privately educated in a roundabout way. I know technically he didn't go to a private school when he started, but he attended to a private school later. Anyway, so she said, why are you taking away this winter payment, which is going to result in thousands of pensioners freezing to death, or words to that extent. To which he said, we need to fix the foundations. What? Okay. Right, so here's the problem with this, right? Winter's coming. Like Game of Thrones kept telling us it would. And if you went into someone's house and he said it's too cold to survive the winter in this house, and they're like, okay, cool. Can we have some money to, I don't know, turn the fire, build a fire, turn the heating on. And you said, no. We need to fix the foundations. And it's like, yeah, but winter's coming and it's going to be cold. Can I just get it sorted now, for what's happening now, and we'll fix the foundations in the long term. But right now I need some heating, right? So it's a really bad look for him to reply to that question with, I'm going to fix the foundations, right? Because no one really cares about that at the moment. They do in the long term, but in the short term, people want to stay warm in the winter. What the words he should have been using is, my government finds it morally reprehensible that people want us to give free money to millionaires. They're the 4 words that he needs to say out loud. Free money to millionaires. And then go on the attack for the former Tory government that didn't want to give food to starving children who couldn't afford food. Their parents couldn't afford to feed them. Malnourished children in this country is through the roof, thanks to previous government initiatives by the Tories, like austerity, Brexit, their terrible response to COVID, and the like. Free money to millionaires has to stop. That's the way he explains it. And then go on to explain that if you need this money, you will get it. In a nice, friendly, non-combative way. But of course, Keir Starmer doesn't do that because he is absolutely shit at communications. I mean, I'm sure he's great as a politician in general, behind the scenes. But I often think of Gordon Brown, not in, when I'm walking down the street, but when it comes to being able to communicate policies to the public, whatever Tony Blair had, Gordon Brown didn't have it and never won an election as a result of that. And it's not about spin. It's about being able to respond to things in a way that makes people go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So if you say, why are we giving free money to millionaires who don't need it? That is a very different proposition to you taking money away from pensioners who are freezing to death as a result of you taking away that winter fuel payment. Also, he could mention the fact that the fuel cap has come down, or the cap on the price of fuel has come down, on energy, sorry. And he could also mention the fact that pensions are going up by about £400 for the average pension, which will swallow up what they will get from the winter fuel payments anyway. He didn't explain any of that. He talked about fixing the foundations. Not helpful, Mr. Starmer. I know you're not going to lose any votes on this. Well, we'll come to this in a moment. Right, Ivan, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. That's very kind of you. Laura Kunsberg needs to be replaced as a matter of urgency now. She does indeed, my friend. She does indeed. Yeah. What can I say? And Sean saying thousands froze to death with the winter fuel payment. Good point. Yeah, because when we talk about fixing the foundations, which is something that needs to be done, but not necessarily the right answer to the question, why are you taking this away from people who might need it? Basically, sorting out the economy is of absolute critical importance. But also, what he could be talking about is saying that there's like 1 million pensioners out there who deserve these benefits but don't know they deserve these benefits. So Labour's going on an initiative to make sure that pensioners know that they can apply for these benefits if they require them. And yes, they are means tested, but then so is everything. And I don't understand why a working family has to be means tested for things like working tax credit, children's tax credit. That's all means tested. I mean, quite rightly, I don't agree at the moment in the current situation with giving free money to millionaires. I think it's bonkers. And as 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires, that winter fuel payment is going to a lot of people who have a lot of money. Simple as that. So, just the way he responded to that question could have been done so much better. He could have talked about how unfair it was that this money was being given to rich people, and he could have talked about what they were doing to make sure that no one freezes to death this winter. The steps that he's putting in place, his government is putting in place to make sure that pensioners don't freeze to death this winter. And he didn't. Had the opportunity, but he didn't. Because he's not a great communicator. Which could come back to bite him on the arse in years to come, but I don't think this is the actual policy that's going to come back to bite him on the arse, although I could be wrong, because for some reason it's going to a vote this week. Tomorrow, actually, in Parliament. Thank you very much to Patrick McCarthy. Will Labour replace the BBC executives? I bloody hope so. And thanks for the super chat, mate. It's really kind. There's going to be a vote, and a lot of Labour MPs are going to rebel against it. Of course they are, because their constituents are writing to them going, I can't afford not to have this winter fuel payment. So there's going to be about 50 MPs who are going to rebel. And we know this. And the problem is, if they vote against it, then they need the whip taking from them. Can Labour afford to lose 50 MPs on top of the 7 they've already lost? I don't know. No, really. I mean, yeah, probably numerically they could do that, but it would seem a bit excessive. What's more likely to happen is that those 50 MPs will abstain, and that gives Labour a little bit of wiggle room to say, well, they didn't vote against it. They didn't vote with the SNP to make us look like gobshites. They voted. They didn't vote at all. They abstained for whatever reason. There's that. But I do think that maybe some of that 50 will vote against it and have the whip removed. Because when asked about this yesterday in the interview, Keir Starmer said, well, that's a matter for the whips. The buck doesn't stop here, apparently. I'll get into your comments on this because I find it interesting to see. I mean, we agree on a lot on this channel, let's face it. I mean, we're all sort of progressives and lefties and liberals and stuff. There's not that much that we really vehemently disagree on. The war in Ukraine is awful. The war in Gaza is awful. And Trump is just a nightmare made horrible globby flesh. The Sean saying the problem is someone will always be over the cliff edge, £1 over to qualify. Yeah, Sean, that is a really good point. And I think that cliff edges in these situations are ridiculous. I think everything should be eased. When it's like a 50,000, you're earning 50 grand and you go to a higher tax threshold. We don't need to do it that way. It can be incremental. So there isn't that cliff edge that you get. So maybe if you're £1 over, you still get a bit of winter fuel payment, but you don't get as much. And then there's like a buffer zone. And it's within the realms of feasibility to do this, especially with AI. I mean, come on. We have the tech. It's not like someone's going to have to sit there doing the sums with a pencil and a jotter. We can get it all automated. How much are you getting? All right. How much do you get from your pension? All right. So, right. Okay. Well, you're £1 over. So that means that instead of getting £200 for your winter fuel payments, you get £150 or something like that. And Howard Risby saying, I'm certainly not £1 over and my allowance was removed on a state pension. Oh, we just lost connection. Sorry about that. Hello, I'm back. I think that anyone who is receiving just the state pension is below the poverty line in this country. Acro Dave says, the problem is that you explain the ins and outs of this policy, but the fact remains that it looks bad and the Tory press can make it look worse. Yes, couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. So let's have a look how the Tory press are reporting that. Are reporting this, I should say. So we've got scores of MPs who refuse to back Starmer over cutting fuel payments. We're talking about maybe 50 MPs who are going to be against it. And then we've got the Mirror's talking about this probe, this inquiry into Lucy Letby and possibly other people who have worked for the NHS and killed people, mass killers. Starmer to give winter fuel rebels a short shrift. Bullish PM faces bid by peers to block benefit cuts. and benefit cuts. So, like, you're admitting there in the Times, in the Murdoch Times, that it's a benefit. And I will put it again, 1 in 5 pensioners are millionaires. They do not need this benefit. Bus going past. There goes the summer as floods give way to an autumn freeze. That's covered the Star, obsessed with the weather as always. And then Olympic, what? The Mail and the Express going mad on this because they know that the vast majority of their readers are pensioners. So they're, singing to the choir here. Labour said cutting OAP winter fuel cash could kill 4,000. That's what party research claimed when Starmer was in shadow cabinet. So why is he forcing it through now? I think that when they were looking at that, I might be wrong, and you could correct me in the comments because I haven't actually done the research. So this is just my gut feeling. But that 4,000 was if everyone had it cut, I'm guessing, not just like the millionaires. Axing of winter fuel payments was cruel, planned betrayal. What, like austerity wasn't? Brexit wasn't? The response to COVID wasn't? Eat out to help the virus out? Or the parties? Was that not a cruel, planned betrayal, telling everyone they couldn't be with their dying nan, but they could have parties in number 10 and face bugger all in way of consequences? What were they charged? Were they fined 50 quid, were they? NHS in decline for first time in 50 years. Failures in most basic care highlighted in major reports into broken health service. I wouldn't say it's broken, but the Tories have done a lot of damage to it. I should say, I don't think it's broken irreparably, but they've done a lot of damage. And here's Daisy's new normal, which is a woman walking around without a bra. And Daisy, what's her name? Edgar Jones, privately educated, of course, Malvern College. Because you see what? She's a famous actress, you see. Are you a famous actress now? Why aren't you a famous actress? Well, you didn't go to private school, did you? Dickhead. Why don't you go back in time and select better parents? Ministers consider plan for cheaper energy bills as Starmer faces winter fuel anger. So they're going to reduce the energy bills for everyone. That's obviously going to be a net win. Day of Truth over mental health call. This is official inquiry begins into thousands of deaths. So this is the NHS inquiry, I guess. But yeah, the support for mental health in recent years has just plummeted through the floor. It is, what one email a month say, you all right? Do you want to take a survey? Do you want to stop doing this now? That's not really very supportive. US companies pile into debt markets as hedge against election turbulence. So this is about the US election, which is terrifying, to be frank. I know I'm usually Graham, but today I'm going to be frank. US election. It's very close. It's very close. We'll be talking about that on Stateside tonight at 8 o'clock. If you'd like to join us for that, you'd be very welcome to. I'm going to jump into the chat. Sarah White says, seriously, fuck these papers. I couldn't agree more. And G Whistler saying, and I'm a socialist. The problem isn't whether a few millionaires get a few quid more. It's capitalism in general. These silly fights Starmer is picking solves nothing. How do we solve capitalism? How do we solve a problem like Maria? No, capitalism. I think capitalism needs to be reined in massively. I think that no one should be allowed to have more than £5 million. I mean, how much money do you need? Like, how big can your TV be? What do you need? A car, a house, a TV, internet connection, a phone. All right, that doesn't cost £5 million. You're all done. Right. Simon says, I used to work for British Gas, and the winter fuel payment system for vulnerable people was a 5-minute telephone chat, filling in claims form, easy peasy. Yeah, back when it was nationalised, I guess. I'd like you not to lump me in with the Tory voting unicorn hunting bigots. Says Howard. Look, I don't know who you responded to there, but look, not all pensioners. Obviously, I'm saying that as an electoral thing, like what losing your core voters. If only 20% of pensioners voted for your party, then you're not going to lose too many of those core voters in the next election. Just saying. And obviously, 20% of pensioners voted for Labour. So hashtag not all pensioners. Sorry I've been absent lately, says Nick in Diff. That's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. Started a new contract job and in meetings at 9:30 every day. Oh, man. That's not great, is it? Hopefully I'll be able to join live in a couple of months. Hope everyone is well. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Ticking over. Hope everyone in the chat's ticking over as well. Barca saying Graham started doing Tories also done it, so Labour can't be bad. No, I look, Barca damn. I appreciate the optics on this are shit. I think the way that Labour have communicated this is shit. I don't know why they're having a vote on it tomorrow. It's just going to create more headaches for Labour. I don't know who's working on their strategy at the moment. These are not decisions that I would necessarily take if I was in Labour at the moment. So I'm you know, we're not Labour social anymore. I'm not under any obligation to defend what they're doing. I just think that all things being equal, if you have to save some money, I would prefer they stopped us giving free money to millionaires. That's it. But at the same time, ensure that every single pensioner who needs that winter fuel payment bloody well gets it. Alan says, I lost out when DLA went to PIP. I took it to tribunal. PIP is designed to deny. It's too stressful to go through the process again, says Alan. Yeah, PIP is an absolutely disgraceful system. So is universal credit. This idea that what was it? Ian Duncan Donut brought in, it's awful. It's meant to deny. You're absolutely right. The computer says no, and you have to jump through all these hoops to get some help. And I remember back when Labour were in power, I think it was around 2003. I was on a low income at the time, and someone said to me, you might be eligible for a supplement to your income to help pay your rent. And I was like, oh mate, no, I won't get money. Why would I get money? There's people way more needy than me. And they were like, no, just go on the website. So I went on the website, council website in Liverpool, and it said, are you earning this much? Okay, you're probably eligible. And I went, okay, great. I went along to the job centre or whatever it was called in those days, and the one-stop shop. That's what it's called. Went to the one-stop shop, and they were really helpful. Like, it was like they wanted to help me get this small benefit, which I needed at the time. And they pushed me, like, it was like, here's the form you fill out. You need to write this here, write here. And they really, really helped me out. The process wasn't designed to deny. The process was to allow. And this is a point that we should make quite often, is that half of all benefits don't go claimed. We talk about benefit people, these people, they're taking money they didn't deserve. I'm like, well, you do know that more money goes unclaimed than actually gets claimed. And the government spends more money trying to chase up people who are benefit cheats than they actually get back once they catch the benefit cheats. Because even if you cheat your benefits, they're still bugger all. I mean, seriously. And you're right. I mean, I remember, so when I came back to this country in 2017, I was going to be looking after my dad full time, who's suffering from dementia. And as such, I thought, well, it's okay. I can work from my parents' house in Liverpool, and I can supplement my, now low income with this £57 a week or whatever you get for carer's allowance. So I applied for it. I had to fill in loads of forms. It took a long time to get a reply. I think it was 6 months. 6 months. I think I applied in the summer of 2017, and it wasn't until, it must have been maybe January or February of the following year, that they finally got back in touch with me. And they said, no, you can't have this, pitiful allowance, carer's allowance, because, get this, I had been out the country for too many days in the last 5 years or something. And I asked, like, how many, because I had to submit, like, my passport and tell them, like, when I'd been in and out the country. And I was something like 7 days over. 7 days. Like, no, that's it. You can't get it. The system designed to say, no, you're absolutely right. Ivan says, I, for one, will not stop heavily criticising the Tories. Ivan, I will join you in that. BUFU, Mike says, applied for PIP in April, got denied on first try, asking for a mandatory reconsideration, which I've been told should hear back in October. FFS, lol. Yeah, mate, exactly. It's a system designed to say no, and that needs to change. Labour need to change that. They need to make positive steps to make sure that people know that they deserve these they deserve these benefits. They deserve this money that they, that's theirs. It's their money. At the end of the day, they are a citizen in this country, and we have a duty of care over the citizens in this country. Simple as that. David Faulkner, thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. That's very kind of you. And the message is, Labour should accept counsel for Marv Phil. He'll put them right. Yes, indeed, he probably will. Pensioners on low incomes. This is from Peter Gartner. Pensioners on low incomes, but not low enough to be on pension credit, should get something towards fuel costs, if not the full 300. Make it happen somehow. Yeah, I agree. I think it should be a sliding scale. Like I say, I would have done this differently. I would have marketed it differently. I would have been like, make it quite a high threshold to not get this, if you know what I mean. So there's going to be no one in the grey zone of suddenly they are £300 worse off than they were, and they really needed that £300. Sarah says, I was in intensive care and didn't know. I had to tell the DWP I was in hospital. When I had a PIP assessment, I told the person doing the assessment I'd been in hospital. I had to pay back £600. Fucking hell. That is just... That's like the guy who they killed in Russia. You know, the leader of the opposition, who they poisoned with Novichok, and then he left the country unconscious for intensive care unit in Germany, and then they were like, "Oh, you left the country without permission." Jesus, the world we're living in, eh? The DWP are a law unto themselves, as ruthless and clandestine as the Stasi ever were. Well, Acro Dave, I mean, yeah, I can't deny. They are. I mean, I guess it's like maybe they're on commission or something to say no. Maybe they just employ sadists. I don't know. I got new radiators put in, so hopefully this winter won't be frigging freezing, says Vendetta. Graham, are you ready for the Rejoin EU March on the 28th of September? Yes, I'm going to be speaking at the Rejoin EU March it's 2 weeks on Saturday. So please come along to it if you are in London or around, and you can get into London easily. Hopefully we'll remain. Stephanie says, I would rather that we had decent pensions so no one needs supplementary payments. Stephanie, we had some of the lowest state pensions in the whole continent of Europe. Dawn says, I feel cheated by the Labour Party. I'm a disabled pensioner, just over the capping limit for winter fuel. Hull's Labour councillor on TV saying she'll vote for it. I'm done with politicians. Dawn, okay, you have my sympathy. I mean, being just over the limit when you're disabled and you're a pensioner, that's why I think it should be a sliding scale. But obviously it's not, because I feel this is a rushed policy. I think they're rushing it through. I don't think it's been thought out as well as it should have been. But it's interesting that, like, if this policy had been for starving children, like the government was giving £300 a year to every starving child in Britain, do you think that the Mail and the Express would be like supporting this? Or do you think they'll be saying, oh, lazy people getting handouts? Oh. I know what I think. The agents of the DWP are on rejection bonuses, says MH Carer. I honestly believe that. I've got no evidence for it, but it's a fact. I've got no evidence. I don't know the inner workings at the Department of Work and Pensions, but it wouldn't surprise me. In the same way that the traffic wardens being on a commission wouldn't surprise me. Anthony says, I remember the day my mum passed away, the DWP rang complaining she missed an appointment, to which I simply replied, well, she passed away at 8:30 this month. And they hung up. What arseholes. What absolute arseholes. Oh, right. And I'll tell you this, because I remember this conversation. When they called me up, Oh no, they didn't call me. I called them about the carers allowance. This is back in 2017 because I've been waiting like 2 months and not heard anything back. So I called them up, and the guy on the other end of the line, who sounded like a young lad, he said the problem is all these foreigners coming here and claiming all the benefits. And I said, foreigners don't get any benefits in this country. What are you talking about? He said, oh, well, there's loads of people getting all these benefits, all these Romanians coming over. And this wasn't long after the Brexit vote. So obviously I was a bit prickly about this. And I'm like, no, their benefits are paid by their government and then reimbursed the same way that if you are a pensioner in Spain, your pension still comes from Britain. It doesn't come from Spain. You can't just go to Spain and get benefits from Spain. That's never the way it worked, ever. Like, it was a reciprocal agreement that whatever country you were in, you could get benefits in that country, but it was paid by the country that you were from within the EU. They said, well, what about all these asylum seekers? I'm like, they don't get anything. They get sod all. They get like £48 a week. And they're not allowed to work. But yeah, this is the idea that a lot of people unfortunately have, including someone who seemed to be working for, I guess, the TWP. I don't know who was in charge of carers allowance being given out. But yeah, the computer wanted to say no. Why did it want to say no? Because of all the foreigners. All the foreigners. I really wish I had recorded that call. I did put in a complaint about it, but it was a bit like, what the hell? So he's on the phone telling people who can't get the benefits that it's the foreigners' fault that they can't get the benefits, and he works for the government. Cyrus says the best way to do the winter fuel allowance is to put in fixed measures when it goes up and down instead of leaving it to the companies always go up but never down. Indeed, that's very true. Sarah says, I've had anxiety attacks when I go near my local JC. I was attacked by a drunk man for being trans, and the security guard thought it was hilarious, and I'm dreading having to go on universal credit as I can't go near the job centre. I'm really sorry to hear that, Sarah. That is shit. It's absolutely shit. And just anxiety in general, it has been raised by the shitty Tory government and these weirdos who are absolutely obsessed with trans people, and they've made it their life's mission to make trans people's lives more difficult than they already are. And to those people, if anyone's watching, can you fuck off? Thanks. Chatty Rat, pensioners should take to the streets. A grey revolt in Ireland some years ago. Put the wind up the government. Pensioners can easily bring their London percentage to local towns and cities to a standstill. Yeah, but if you did bring a city to a standstill, you could face 5 years in jail. Oh, damn it. I've got a cough and I need more water. Oh, it's all right. I'm 4 minutes past 10. I'm already over time. Right, I'm going to read out a few comments before I die of coughing. I still haven't shut this cough. It's been 3 months now. Has it? That's July, August. Jesus. It's been 2 months. I just can't count. Acro, when I had come out of work after 17 years at the same place, some 20 odd year old at the job centre complained about me being a drain on the public purse, the little turd. Jesus Christ. Bloody hell, Acro Day. That is just unbelievable. Like, we can share our stories, but these aren't the right people to be working in these places. Do you know what we should be using? Libraries. We should be using libraries and have people who are trained to help people who are going through difficulty in libraries and make them a community hub for people like they're supposed to be, like they used to be. And I think that would be a great step forward rather than the demonization and stigma of having like a job centre where you go. I mean, you don't need one at the moment. Like, back in the 90s, yeah, you'd have the little jobs advertised and little cards in the window, but you've got the internet now. So if you have a library that's set up as a community hub, then that would be a much better way of dealing with this, with people who are trained to help people and people who are trained to deal with people with mental health problems as well, and disability issues. That would be wonderful. That would be fantastic. But no, we're still segregating things off. I know some communities are. That place, actually, the Spello Hub that got burnt down by the Farage rioters in Liverpool, that was a library community centre where you could go and get support and help. roll in Citizens Advice Bureau into that as well, and have someone in the library, a few people full time that you can go and talk to get your citizens' advice to find out where your legal position is. Something that the Tories wound down because they don't want people getting citizens' advice. They don't want people getting legal advice. They don't want people getting legal aid. They've cut the legal aid budget so that if you're rich, you can take people to court to shut them up. If you're poor, you can't take people to court for anything that they do. They can do whatever they find pleasurable. Alf Smith, I once told a job centre they were unsustainable and ought to quit their job because they needed crutches and it took them long to get to the printer. You might as well be rude to them. Fucking hell. Howard says, I'll be out here every few years anyway. I may just withdraw behind my own paywall and restrict communications to online shopping lists and feeding seagulls to piss the council off. That's one way to do it. Under the Tories, the job centres probably looked at getting work sets you free over the door. I mean, we're seeing a lot of parallels, aren't we, with like Soviet Russia, the Stasi, the Nazis. Johnny, thank you very much for probably what's going to be the last super chat of the morning. Thank you so much for that. That's really kind of you. Keeps us going, you know. A cough that drags on that long is very worrying. Please get that checked out, my friend. Johnny, I've been to the doctors 3 times about this cough already, and they're just like, I've had chest x-rays, blood tests, sputum tests, pretty much everything that you can get tested. I've been on antibiotics for it. I can't shift it. But the thing is, it had died down a little bit in August. Not because I was still having coughing fits, but I was just having a lot fewer of them. But now I've got a cold, so I'm coughing more regularly. Again, oh my God, Ivan, thank you very much for the £50 super chat. Jesus Christ. That is very, very kind of you, my friend. That is very, very kind. Thank you. Because of the Tories, I now have to go private for my mental health treatments. In my area, the NHS Trust for Mental Health, Norfolk and Suffolk NHF Foundational Trust, is the worst in the country. There must be a public inquiry. Well, yeah, I mean, hopefully this inquiry that was reported in the Metro, that they can have a look at the mental health facilities around the country in this inquiry. But yeah, I completely agree that the Tory government, that their rules were like, don't be unfortunate, don't be born poor, don't get ill, don't have mental health problems, and you'll be fine. And again, you raised quite an interesting point there where you say you've had to go private because there are people who, the people who made these rules, the people who made it so you had to go private. Going private wouldn't be a big drag on them. That's fine. They can afford the expensive therapist and stuff like that. The rest of us waiting in a queue to be seen for mental health problems or physical health problems is an absolute bloody disgrace, and that's completely on the Tories. Thank you so much, Ivan. That was really kind of you. Johan says, "Scree incoming." Scree. Thank you, Ivan. Sarah says, "I get paranoid when I go past the job centre. Part of my mental health illness is that they're looking through the tinted one-way glass and they're watching me. I'm having a good day. I'm in trouble." Yeah, I can see why you feel that way. But just know that there are people in this country, a lot of people who are on your side, who are sick and tired of the demonization of people with mental health problems, the demonization of people from other countries, the demonization of people with different religions, different skin colors, the demonization of gay people, trans people, lesbians, just the demonization of others, the othering, the great othering that we are currently undergoing. Yeah, and I'm just hoping that things will get better. But that requires Trump not to win in the election in November. So yeah, we'll talk about that tonight on Stateside. So please join us for Stateside at 8:00 tonight, where I'll be talking with a tamed American about what's happening over there. Billy Kershaw says, "Off to Crook Job Centre in my crappy old car, crappy old clothes to beg for money for my crappy old life," says Billy. Billy, I'm sorry that you've been made to feel that way. You shouldn't be made to feel like you're begging for money. And this is what the right wing agenda has been for many years. Make people who need help feel guilty for asking for help, feel guilty for getting ill, feel guilty for having an ambulance call because they're having a freaking heart attack, feel guilty for being who they are and fancying who they fancy, or being themselves when they're not harming anyone, when they're not and that's the right-wing agenda, and we can't let them win. If you are a citizen of this country, the first duty of the government of this country is to protect you. That is their job. Forget about everything else. Forget about all the party lines and elections and bullshit, right? The important thing is they protect you. They protect you against foreign invading armies. They protect you against murder. They protect you against sexual assault. They protect you against you being ripped off by con artists. They protect you against disease, mental health problems. They're there to protect you. That is the social contract. That's why we give up our rights to the Leviathan. That is the government, to say we will give up certain rights of ours in return for you to look after us, to protect us. And the government under the Tories last 14 years failed in that social contract in every conceivable way. And we are now poorer than ever before in general. Like, we have child poverty going through the roof. We have a squeezed middle class that is so worse off than generations that came before it, which is remarkable. Like, that's never happened before. Always things got incrementally better throughout, since the Industrial Revolution. Things got incrementally better every generation. I mean, there was a huge step up between the greatest generation and the boomers. I mean, the boomers had it bloody made. They bought a house for £2.50 in 1967, and now it's worth $500,000. That's not going to happen again, my friends. That is not going to happen again. Who will protect us from our own government? Exactly, Acro Dave. Who watches the Watchmen? Right, I'm going to get off now. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks so much for the super chats. Ivan, that was really generous of you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else who's joined in the conversation this morning. Like I say, I'll be back at 8 o'clock tonight for Stateside. And tomorrow we are going to be doing a watch party of the presidential election debate in America. It's going to be on about 2 o'clock in the morning over here, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. So if you fancy getting up for that, that's not tomorrow morning, it's the morning after. So it's Tuesday night. Please join us for that. But in the meantime, I'll say thanks for watching. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.